people are calling at the lowest time of their life, or they're really in a place where they need help from someone. And while I think we love technology and use it on the back end, and it's great to make your firm or your business a lot more efficient, just keeping the humans on the front end.
Hey, law firm owner, welcome to the Your Practice Master podcast. We're your hosts. I'm MPS.
And I'm Richard James, and we're going to have a fantastic conversation today, MPS, about the law firm inside workings. And you've had a chance to talk with Skylar. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're going to learn today?
Yeah, I have. First off, Skylar, excited to have you on today. And we're going to discuss how managing intake can really impact the growth of a law firm. So, Skylar, I'm excited to have you here.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Skylar, one of the things we like to do is kick things off with a bit of an icebreaker. So what's something that maybe not everyone knows about you?
All right. So something people often don't know about me is that I started my journey as a receptionist. So taking client calls is where I first discovered my passion for what we do. So since then, I've been fortunate to grow through incredible opportunities and supportive leaders who believed in me. So it's been an amazing journey with people just taking chances on me and taking the leap.
Skylar, I have no doubt. I can tell by your voice and the way that you smile. I can hear your smile on the other end of this podcast that you were probably really good at being a receptionist. Do you remember any particular practice areas that you liked answering for over others, or did you like them all equally?
So I'm supposed to say I like them all equally, but if I had to pick one, I would say the personal injury ones really touched my heart because people were going through such a hard time in their life, and they would share how they're calling around just trying to get help and trying to know what the next step is. And talking to someone when they're at the lowest point is, really hard. But by the end of the call, when they're excited and they're glad that someone's going to at least help them, I think that is really what made my day, and I felt fulfilled when I signed out of work.
Yeah, that's awesome. I agree that, I oftentimes say this, that lawyers, I say that they do God's work, right? Because they're helping people in some of their deepest, darkest moments, and they're helping them really overcome real life challenges. So tell me a little bit about your journey in this. So you started as a receptionist. Now, what do you do with Lex Reception?
Yes, so my main day, I could say, is the ability just to make an impact with our team and with our clients. And an impact in the world is kind of what I'm looking for, or inspiring to me. So I talk to so many attorneys, especially at conferences or on sales calls, who are very overwhelmed with their workload and missing out on potential business. There's some who you'll be talking to them, they're like, 1 second, I got a call, 1 second, I got a call. And you can just see how fast paced their day is. So, when they partner with us, we help them grow their revenue and strengthen their reputation, because it's such a big responsibility. And hearing the success stories is what makes it all worth it. So if I could share a story with you, is that okay?
Please. Yeah, because I was just going to ask you about this idea of, how do you grow the revenue? Or can you share an example, or how do you grow the reputation? So I love it that you have a story. Please do.
Yeah, for sure. So one story that stands out to me, and he'll laugh when he watches this, is a particular guy. And we had so many conversations, and he was very stuck. He's like, this is how I want my calls, and you're going to do it this way. And I'm like, but we might not be successful here because we're not a lawyer. We're not someone in your office. And these questions are so detailed and open. I don't know how this is going to go. And so we continue to have conversations together. And he came back, frustrated because he's not getting the result he wanted. He's like, you told me this was going to make an impact. I'm not happy. I said, okay, we have a solid relationship at this point, so I'm just going to try this out. I'm like, can I ask you something? He said, yes. I said, would you want me to go into court and argue a case for you? And he's like, no, absolutely not. I wouldn't want you to touch anything. I'm like, yeah, exactly, because that's your expertise, and mine is helping you with your script, what our associates who take your calls are trained on, and what really is going to work for you. So please trust me. I know your reputation's important. We're your first impression, and I know you spent your whole life building up this firm, But if I'm wrong, we can revert your script back immediately to how you want it, and I'll give you credit. And then he said, okay. So he trusted me, and 2 years later, he's a happy client. We don't have a lot of phone conversations anymore. And so whenever we just focus on what truly matters and just giving him that time back, now he's not having to worry about all of his calls. He can take a vacation. It's just stories like that. And they're just highlights for me. And now whenever I see him, it's just so funny because it was a hard one to get through.
So, Skylar, I love that conversation. I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing. Here's the reason why I love that story so much. For those of you that are listening, so maybe you're out there at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, maybe it's Friday and you realize, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to work all weekend, whatever it is. You're frustrated, you're tired, you're overwhelmed. And maybe part of the reason why you are so overwhelmed is there's not enough revenue. There's not enough check at the end of the month per se, right? And so what you need to do is you need to generate more revenue, but you don't have a job, so you can't get a car. So you can't get a car because you don't have a job. Like you're in this circular relationship. Well, the experts are where they can make a difference. They can step in and go, okay, listen, I appreciate what you've been trying to do, but you've been trying to do it like this. Let me show you how to do it like this. And Skylar, you've probably seen this experience. Like lawyers are really intelligent. They're hardworking. They've got a lot of grit. They've obviously had to be who they are to get to where they are, but they've never been taught, basic business, sales, appointment setting principles in law school. And so they weren't evolved into that world, and you are the expert at what it is that you do. And so when they let you be the expert is when you can make the biggest difference in their firm. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah, so that's the key. So the lesson for all of you that are out there, when you run into an expert, and of course, I know lawyers, you have outlier situations, and sometimes you have trust issues. I get it. And maybe it'll take a time or two or a phone call or two with Skylar for her to get you there. But when you've got a situation where there's an expert, my advice to you is let the expert do what they do best. Hey, if you're looking to learn about how to convert leads in your firm over to paying clients, go to thelawfirmsecret.com. And you're going to figure out there exactly how to take the next step in your firm to start converting more of those leads into paying clients today. So, Skylar, what is the number one challenge that you find that law firms go through when don't have somebody answering their phones after hours during the day for rollover when they're busy, or maybe in general because they don't have enough staff to answer their phones in general? What's the number one challenge you find they go through?
That's a great question. So as someone who did take the calls, if you aren't capturing that information right away, most of the time they're calling in the afternoon when they've gotten off of work. And so they're just going down the list of Google trying to find someone. And we hear that on the calls. And that's on the weekends, that's on the evenings. Like tragedies don't have, the perfect timeline of Monday to Friday. And so really capturing it when they need it most, which is 24/7 on the holidays, every day of the year. And so that's one challenge. And also, even if you have someone who's intake inside your office, you're paying them a lot of money with their salary, their vacation, their benefits, all of those things. And what we could do is just send the calls that truly matter. We can qualify the people that you want to talk to. So you're spending your day talking to people who really need your help, and we can take care of the ones who, might need to a referral or somewhere else at the time. So I think that's the biggest thing, is spending so much time talking to people who aren't going to be, or who aren't going to convert for you. And that is a lot of time that you can't get back.
Yeah, I tell you, so you said a mouthful in that one statement that you just unpacked. Let me unpack it a little bit for you.
Yes.
So first and foremost, you said PI firms are some of your favorites. We work with PI firms and family law firms and criminal firms and bankruptcy firms, immigration firms, estate planning firms, right? So a lot of fee-based and some contingency firms. Regardless, the cost per lead is somewhere between $50 and $500 for a PI lead in a big city. And so when the phone rings, if there's not somebody qualified to answer it, or it rolls to a voicemail, or it goes to a paralegal who doesn't really know what he or she is doing when they answer the phone, then what happens is we take the real chance that we've wasted that lead. We don't contact their information. It was a very, very expensive phone call. You agree with that, yes?
Yes, very much.
And then
agree.
secondly, what you said is, is that if we do put them with a specialist who's on the phone, we can schedule those appointments for them, build a relationship, ask the right questions, follow the script. And I know that your team is coachable. You'll follow any script they put together as long as it's in guidelines with best practices. And as you well know, we teach the 11 steps around here. And so the team can put together those 11 steps with you, and they can actually go ahead and execute those 11 steps from your receptionist. And what will happen is we'll get a better set rate. That is fundamentally that formula of the number of appointments that we set versus the number of qualified leads that we get. One story that comes to mind, I remember years ago, Howard Snader originally started with me, and he had nobody to answer his phones. And he was just answering them on his own, and they were going to his cell phone. Of course, his cell phone voicemail was always full, right? If anybody tried to leave a voicemail, they heard, "I'm sorry, this voicemail is full." Probably not the first time you've heard that story, right?
Right.
And so Howard would try to call everybody back that was on his caller ID at night after court. And he couldn't obviously get everybody. And so he was missing a bunch of leads, and maybe he was scheduling 6, 7, 8 appointments a week. When we connected him with a specialist who actually knew what they were doing, he went from scheduling 6 appointments a week to like 18 appointments a week. That's a game changer. I'm assuming you see similar type results in your world. Is that correct?
Yes, very much so. I know that what you teach is very similar. Like, you see those problems that they're experiencing, and it really is a game changer, like you said, to not have to worry about all of the incoming calls, because that's full time, and doing that on top of all the other things like someone has to do in a firm is just, to me, overwhelming. I couldn't do it.
Well, and you said the third thing that you said in there was that it's really possible that the attorney gets a bunch of calls that aren't qualified or non-relevant or whatever. And if their phone is constantly ringing, being bothered, or maybe another legal professional on their team's phone is constantly ringing or being bothered, now they don't get really deep focus time to work on the legal matters they should be working on. And it's not allowing them to put their highest and best use into play. Generally speaking, what we should do in a law firm, this is our philosophy, not necessarily yours, but you've said it, so I'm going to say it a little differently, is that we should take the top level skilled and licensed individual at the top of the pyramid, in this case the attorney or paralegal, and we should push down all the work that somebody else can do. They should only do the work that's of their highest and best use. Pushing down sounds like we're pushing it to something lesser than. We're not. We're just moving it from their plate to an expert in your team. So like what you've said is, if we can take what you shouldn't be doing and allow us to do it, you get to bill out at your highest and best use. And I think we're both saying the same thing. Agreed?
Yes, I totally agree. We're on the same page.
Awesome. So walk me through the next step for you. What is either the next challenge that you find attorneys have, or the next message that you have for those attorneys that are listening?
So I would say the next challenge we face is, once we get through the sales process and you're getting onboarded, you are going to hear somebody else take your call, and it's not going to sound like you, and it's going to feel like a shock. You're going to be like, wait, I would never say that, or no, don't say that. And we're not going to know, because we don't know what's individualized to your firm or what is working out for you. So there's going to be a lot of communication at the beginning, just understanding what you want. After you hear a couple of calls, then you'll be able to really share with us what you want us to say and what you don't want us to say. But with the client I was talking about earlier, that sometimes can be a little bit longer, depending on, the firmness that you want to have with the script and the flexibility, and like kind of giving up that control a little bit, which is very hard.
Well, I think that points to another challenge that I think attorneys struggle with. So, law firm owner out there, listen up. I've been working with you folks for 15 years. I'm not a lawyer myself, but I do struggle with this problem. You were probably the smartest person in your class in many ways. You maybe always got straight A's. Your law school taught you to get everything right. And so there's this feeling of it has to be perfect. And while that may be true in your workflow and the legal process that you have, in marketing and sales and lead conversion, a lot of times in the beginning, it's a little messy. It's some trial and error. You get started in the beginning, you might not be as good at it as you want. It may not be as perfect as you want. But then with good quality communication with quality vendors like Lex, what can happen is you can dial in the right script. You can dial in the right tone. You can dial in the right messaging. You'll get a better result over time, and all of your numbers will continue to go up. This is like what I told my kids when they were younger. In the beginning, you're going to be bad before you're going to be good, right? But in order to be bad at something, you've got to try it. And practice makes perfect. And so, Skylar, it sounds like what you're asking attorneys to do, whether they do it with your firm or any other firm or any other agent that they have, it's not going to be perfect at first when they first hear somebody else answering their phone. So let's just try it a little bit, make a carburetor adjustment, try it again, make it a carburetor adjustment. As long as we're staying inside of their boundaries and they're staying inside of the boundaries of what best practices are to maximize their conversions, it's a win for everybody, right?
Yes, it's a huge win. And you'll get
Good.
that back from time in your week, which no one else can give you.
Yeah, well, that's the truth, right? Nobody else can give you time. Is something we all have 24 hours a day and that we're not going to get any more. And once it's gone, it's gone. Okay, so what's the next big challenge if you have one?
I would say those are the two, like kind of at the beginning. We do offer a lot of technical services, which are really great. So when you're first starting with the service, it's kind of could feel like information overload because you're trying to get your script right and just get the basics done. But after getting integrated with Lex and feeling out how you're liking the calls, we can do so much more for you and what you're looking for. So for example, I have one client and they started off just with basic messaging for the first 3 months while they were, getting used to us handling their calls for them. And then they had asked us, like, could you schedule appointments with us? And so we don't have to do it. I'm like, oh yes, we can do that. And they were with Clio. So they integrated with Clio. They had someone in their office who was manually entering all the information from every call we took. So we got that integrated and it just pushes into Clio under, new client, existing client. So they're not having to do that. And then we can also outbound call to some leads as well. So if you don't want your intake staff doing it, that's in-house, you could say, hey, call out to these people and try and get them scheduled with us. And we can do that too. We can also make it where once we hit the send button and send the call to you, we can send forms over to your new potential client. And then that way you don't have to do that step. So really exploring what those other features are that continue to give you that time back in your week.
I love it. So if a lawyer is getting started, they own a law firm, they're currently answering their own calls, the 101 level class is let's have an expert answer your phones and done in a way that's scripted and makes sense, and let's dial it in. And then after you've done that for a while and you're ready, let's go to the 201 level and let us start scheduling appointments for you. And then when you're ready, we can add the 301 level and we can actually send documents to the prospects about that appointment, and we can integrate with your CRM, assuming we have a native integration with it, like Clio or whatever else they're using. And then finally, if we go to the 301 or 401, maybe even the 501 level, if you need us to make outbound calls for you to remind clients about their prospects, about their appointment, or to call maybe unconverted leads, or to remind clients about court hearings or any other types of scenarios, or maybe help collect documents. Your team can actually make outbound calls in various different categories to support the law firm if they don't have an in-house agent, or maybe they don't have enough work to warrant bringing in their own in-house team. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes, exactly. The only thing what they wouldn't be able to do is be your salesperson, but everything else we got you covered.
Got it. Yeah. So sales is a little bit more advanced, but that's okay. This covers a wide variety. There are so many things that happens on the phones that can be managed by your team. And so for you as the law firm owner, Why this is important. And so, look, I'm a proponent. Eventually, as your team grows, you need to bring things in-house. There's real advantages to having a culture and a team on the same page. I believe in using firms like Lex because in the beginning, when you're not big enough and you don't have enough revenue to support your own team, or you're just trying to scale your firm and you have opportunities to fill a space, but you don't need a full-time person, using a firm like Lex's allows you to go out there and fill in that gap in a way that isn't just one-dimensional, it's multi-dimensional. And so this is what I call outsourcing, right? So when you own a law firm, one of the keys is to outsource for experts. And so now Lex has just told you they're not only experts in inbound and scripting and making sure the tone is right, they're also experts in outbound. They're also experts in understanding how to integrate with your software. They're also experts in understanding how to send documents based on what you need them to send. They're also experts on making sure they can make outbound calls for your team. So they've got a lot of levels of expertise that you can tie into that would be a fraction of the cost of you hiring these individuals full-time in your firm. Now, if you're large enough and you can have these individuals, great. But maybe even if you have those individuals, maybe somebody quits or retires or you terminate them or whatever, and you need a quick fix. Well, having somebody like Lex on your team gives you the ability to do that. You can dial it up, get them trained up real quick, and have them take over whilst you go fill out that position. Is that accurate, Skylar?
Yes, you got it.
Good. I'm trying really, really hard to give them a picture of how they could leverage this, not so much as a pitch for Lex Reception. And by the way, if you're listening to this going, oh, well, they're just pitching Lex Reception. So to be clear, we're somewhat agnostic on this concept, right? So to us, it matters that you work with a vendor that you can get results from. But really, what I want you as the law firm owner to hear is that having a partner like Lex Reception in your back pocket actually helps you leverage many different areas of your firm. Mostly, it helps you convert more leads and get those leads to show up to the appointments they schedule. And if they do a good job and build a great rapport, they will also be more likely to retain the firm. And if we can do that through all the aspects we've talked about today, they fundamentally make you more money. And there's a return on investment for these relationships, not a cost. Is that a fair way to position it, Skylar?
Yes, it's so expensive hiring in-house and trying to get coverage 24/7 on the holidays and all of that. So we have all that taken care of for you as well.
Is there, can I ask, maybe a loaded question or maybe an unexpected question for you?
Sure.
Okay, so and maybe you and Michael had the opportunity to talk about this off camera, but my question for you is, AI is around the corner, right? It's here in some ways. In what ways are Lex starting to leverage that technology or offer advantages from that technology? Or what are you looking forward to with that technology to help augment the services that you offer?
Yes, so thanks for asking me that. I know AI is everywhere. Every conference I go, it's like pumped into the air about it. Everyone's talking about it. So I did just go to a conference recently and people were really excited about what AI agents could do as far as taking the calls for them instead of, human agents. And I care about our people and that human connection and experience. I know we talked about earlier, people are calling at the lowest time of their life or they're really in a place where they need help from someone. And while I think we love technology and use it on the back end, and it's great to make your firm or your business a lot more efficient, just keeping the humans on the front end.
Got it. So you believe that while AI is there and there's use for it on the backside of the whole process, building the human connection is really what we're after. And it's very difficult to replace that kneecap to kneecap, or in this case, ear to ear relationship where we're building that human connection. I don't think AI is certainly there yet. And if it does get there, we've probably got bigger problems. So, yeah. Good. Well, what are you most excited about at what it is you do, Lex Reception, what's coming down the pipe, or is there anything else you want us to know?
I would just say I continue to be excited about how we can help our clients capture more business and maintain an amazing reputation. That will always excite me and hearing about their feedback in the service just continues to help us grow. So I always look forward to those client conversations.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Skylar, if people want to learn more about you or Lex Reception, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
You can Google us, Lex Reception, and we'll pop up for you. And our number is right at the top. So you can give us a call and you'll talk to one of our amazing team members who can help you right away.
No better way to find out how good your service is. Go ahead and call them and see how they answer the phone, right? That's a good first test.
It is.
Well, Skylar, thanks so much for being on the call today. I really appreciate you, all you've done, all Lex has done for many of our members through the years, as well as for us. And so thanks so much. Appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you again out there at the shows.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time and expertise.
And for all of you that are listening as a law firm owner, if you have any comments for Skylar, go ahead and put them in. If you'd like, you could subscribe or you can put on those bell notifications. You know, all the things that you do. The reason we ask you to do it, we'd love to continue to bring you this content, which hopefully brings you value. In return, all we ask is for a little bit of love. We call that the gentleman's agreement around here. So go ahead and like, subscribe, turn on your bell notifications, all those things, so that YouTube and the Spotify's and other podcast scenarios know exactly that we're doing something the right way. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you again the next time.